Hello, I'm Danny the Guide, and are you ready for today's London snippet of history? Today we're going to be talking about a church from the 12th century called St Bartholomew the Great. And the church itself sits in the area of Smithfield. If you remember, we spoke about Smithfield Meat Market in the previous video, and if you didn't watch it yet, check it out. But the area of Smithfield, although very quiet in the City of London today, used to be a hive of activity and people all around. The live cattle market. You have a hospital which still is here today. It was the site of rebellions and executions, and it even had for 2 weeks of the year, every year, a cloth fair. And medieval London and medieval England really made its money on wool and cloth. So really in the heart of a thriving, buzzing community. But today it's very, very quiet. And I wonder if you've ever noticed this Tudor gatehouse. The gatehouse provides the now entrance to the grounds of the Church of St Bartholomew the Great, but it was once lost, covered over in brick. And if you look very closely at this oak sculpture, it is of St Bartholomew himself, holding a gold-leafed skillet knife through which he was martyred. The story goes is that Bartholomew is one of Jesus' 12 apostles, sometimes identified as Nathanael. He is mentioned in the Gospels of John, whereby Bartholomew is introduced to Jesus by Philip, but this is mostly contested. Nevertheless, Bartholomew goes to the country of Armenia in the 1st century AD, where he starts to convert the people to Christianity, and he converts the king, King Ptolemaeus. However, not all of the king's court agreed with his decision to convert, because Bartholomew is martyred for his Christian faith. The king's brother takes him and condemns Bartholomew to death. There's actually 2 stories of how he dies. Now, the first one is that he is crucified upside down, and the second one, a little more gruesome, is that he was filleted alive. So all of his skin was removed while he was still breathing. That's why you'll often see images of St Bartholomew holding what looks to be like a skillet knife. Now, Bartholomew in Armenia is one of their patron saints, but here in London he is associated with healing the sick, which is why next to the church you will find one of London's oldest hospitals, St Bartholomew's Hospital. So let's go through the gatehouse and see what's on the other side. Welcome to the exterior of the church. Can you see this stone figure in the centre above the door? It's a gentleman called Rahir. He's also holding a smaller version of the original priory in his hands, as he is the founder of St Bartholomew the Great. Rahir was the court jester of King Henry I and was released to go on a pilgrimage to Rome. But along the way he fell seriously ill, and the story goes that as he lay there he prayed for help, and appearing to him in a vision was none other than St Bartholomew. He granted him health so long as he built a church and a hospital upon returning to England. Now when he came back, he went straight to the king, and King Henry must have believed Rahir and granted him this land in 1123. Rahir became the first prior of the church and hospital, and his tomb is inside. One of the amazing things about St Bartholomew the Great is that it still has its foundations from 1123. It even survived the Great Fire of London in 1666, and even the Second Great Fire, which we refer to as the Blitz, the German bombing raid over London during the Second World War. But it didn't survive the 16th century dissolution of the Monastery Act enacted by King Henry VIII. This happened when he broke away from the Roman Catholic Church to create the Church of England. Augustinian priories like St Bartholomew were Catholic affiliated and therefore destroyed during King Henry VIII's reign. And so the building was handed over to a gentleman called Richard Rich, and his family held on to the properties of the buildings for over 300 years. The north transept of St Bartholomew's was used as a blacksmith forge. You can even go in today and see some of the black smoke that was created from the fire. And the Lady Chapel, interestingly, was used as a printer's office, where Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of America, worked in 1725. But today it is still a working church, and inside it is beautifully intact with its beautiful Romanesque architecture with rounded arches and thick columns, really identifying that this does date back to the 12th century. And just look at this architectural gem. With features dating from the 12th century, it's no coincidence that this is often used as a great location for historical movies, like The Other Boleyn Girl, with Eric Bana, Natalie Portman and Scarlett Johansson, or Elizabeth, The Golden Age, with Kate Blanchett, or even Shakespeare in Love, with Joseph Fiennes and Gwyneth Paltrow. And everyone's favourite, The Story of Robin Hood, the Prince of Thieves, with Kevin Costner and the late Alan Rickman. But what it's also known for is for being part of 20th century cinematic history, with an iconic scene featured in the 1994 classic with Hugh Grant and Andie MacDowell, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. So you see, it may just be a snippet of London's history, but I hope it's intrigued you to find out more. Come to London and explore. I'm Danny the Guide, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel or find me on Facebook or Instagram, or even via my website www.dannytheguide.com.